Hello everyone. This is a series on user interface design taken the session by Swati Shastri. We are dealing with the fourth module. So in the last class, we have learned about, or we had started to learn about window operations. Okay, so to operate on a window, we were in need of an active window. And we have also seen the general guidelines on which the window must be operated to. We have also seen what are the guidelines that are to be followed to make interface to open a window. We have seen about sizing the window, like when the window opens, what should be the size of it and all. Those guidelines we have seen. We have seen the disadvantages and advantages of having a large sized window also. And we have also learned about where the window must be placed when you're trying to reposition the window or if you're trying to open a new window. So these were the few operations that we had dealt in the last class. In today's class, we'll be seeing the further kind of an operations that can be or that can be considered for operating onto a window. So in today's session, we are going to learn about certain kind of window operations, and those window operations are how to have a separation of a window, how to move a window, how should it be resized, any other operations if they are present on the window, how the window must be shuffled, what kind of a keyboard control, or you can call it as a mouseless operation control that you want to provide for a window. What are the guidelines that you have to maintain if you want to provide that? And what are the guidelines that you have to figure out when you are trying to close a window? So we are going to see these kind of operations, how to provide these kind of operations for your user interface that you are going to design is what you are going to learn about today. So if you want to have a window which can be quite separate than what is existing below. So if you want to see that, so you have certain window operations. You can perform something called as separating a window. So when you're trying to separate a window, so when do you require to separate a window is that if you have opened more than one or two windows, that time you may have to separate one window from the other window, which is at the background. So that is what you always try to do, right? So when you're trying to do that, then we prefer to have a window separation, a clear, crystal, crispy, pleasing uh, differentiating window. Okay, you need to demarcate where the window is, like which is the foreground window, which is the background window. You need to make that kind of a demarcation. So that is what is more important for anybody. Okay, so when how you have to do is you should have a crispy, clearly and pleasing demarcations of a window from the background of the screen onto the appearance that you have. So for that, what you have to do is provide a surrounding solid line border for the window. If you want to see an example, I'm just stopping this particular presentation, and if I just minimize this, I have a previous window something running and I have a proper demarcation solid line which is visible. You can see here, right? So this is visible. This is what is more important kind of a thing, that kind of a solid line border of a window demarcation is more important. And you also can provide a window background that sets off window well against the overall screen background, like whatever window background you have, that background and the previous background that you have, it should be of a contrast colors. So that is also a kind of a separation that you can provide. Okay, so third kind of a separation if you want to provide, then you can consider incorporating a drop shadow beneath the window. It's clearly visible for this. See here, you can find a drop of shadow of the presentation onto the word file that you have. So this kind of a drop of a shadow that you have, that kind of differentiation also can make cue or give you a demarcation of a window. So that particular window is separated from the background. So this is how you can provide a window separation. You can separate the window from its background, and like the foreground is different completely from that of the background. So that kind of a separation is also a kind of a window operation that you have to provide for a user when you are trying to design a user interface. Okay, so moving on to the next kind of an operation. The next kind of an operation is moving a window. So usually when you are a person who is designing this user interface and giving the interface for the people or the customers, that time you have to permit the user to change the position of all the windows. You should be capable of, like for example, if you can see this, I'm capable of moving this all around, right? So I can place it anywhere I wish to. So what Microsoft, being a user interface designer, has done is that he has given the user to he has left the user for the free movements of the whole window. So whenever you're trying to move that window and you are the provider, it is better that try to change the pointer shape to indicate that move selection is successful. Whatever you have selected and you're trying to move, if you want to explicitly show that, then it's better that you change the shape of the pointer, which will make you understand that yes, the movement of window is going on. Okay, next is that move the entire window as the pointer moves. So I was dragging all around, so wherever my pointer used to move, my window has moved. So this is the best option. But if you cannot provide that, you can also go for just an outline movement and keep the contents in the center itself, wherever it was. Leave the contents wherever it was. Okay, so if it is impossible to move the entire window, move the window outline while leaving the window displayed in its original position wherever it was. So this is also one kind of an option, but you might face certain problems with this because you may not be having a data visibility, or you may lose the visibility of the data. Such kind of things might be possible. So just moving an outline is quite problematic, but you can provide that particular operation. And you should also permit the moving of the window without its being active. So if it is, even though if it is not active, you should be capable of moving the window. You need not give like it should be coming under foreground to move the window. Okay, so this is also a kind of an operation you can perform on the window when you are a user interface designer. You can provide it for your customers. Okay, so the next operation that you may have is resizing the window. You should be capable of resizing the window. So the first point is that if you are a user interface designer, for the user, better allow the user to resize his window as per according to his requirements, because it changes according to his needs, right? So the first point is that permit the user to change the size of the primary window, correct? So according to the primary window, whatever he is in need of, you better allow him to change the window. So unless the information displayed in the window is fixed or cannot be scaled to provide more information, you should be capable of changing that. But if you have a very stubborn information, very fixed size of information, you cannot reduce the size of the information, then you need not, or you better display that you cannot resize the window. Okay, so if your information is quite fixed, then okay, so whenever you better allow the user only under the condition that the information present in that should not be hampered. Okay, so the second point is that if you are allowing the user to change the size of the window, then change the pointer shape to indicate the resizing selection is successful. You can see it in the example. So here, if I want to drag this, it's visible that my pointer has changed to a double-sided arrow, like I can drag it, right? So I don't want to I can drag it, right? So it has changed the shape of the pointer. Instead of having a single pointer, it is having a double-ended arrow keys. So it changes the shape of the pointer so that it can understand that I have selected the resizing selection. Correct. Next is the simplest operation is to anchor the upper left corner and resize from the lower right corner. So whenever you're dragging something, it's like your upper left corner, this part is always fixed, and with this reference the other part is being dragged. Okay, so this is common thing. But if you are not interested, you can permit them resizing from any point of the window. That's also possible. Okay, so that is like I can hold it here and I can drag it here, or I can drag anywhere else. I can provide anywhere else. This is also possible, right? So basic thing is like you better keep the upper left part constant, and you can drag the lower right part to resize the window. But if you are not interested, you can give the resizing from all kinds. Fine. So show the changing window as the pointer moves. If it is impossible to show the entire window being resized, show the window's outline while leaving the window displayed in the original position. So you can see that in the example, like if I am dragging it, I can feel that my window is changing, right? So you can either give that changing along with the contents that you're displaying, or you better keep the contents constant and just show the outline moving. That's also possible. Okay, so when window size changes and content remains same, it is better that change the image size proportionally as the window size changes. So for example is like if I am dragging this, you can see my slide is also increasing, the size of it is increasing. But if I am just resizing it to the smaller one, even the size of this is decreasing. So my content is going to change, the size of my image or the content is going to change according to the size of the screen. So that is what is preferred to have. Okay, if resizing creates a window or image too small which is easy for use, you can do one of the following. Okay, first is you better clip or truncate the information arranged in some logical structure or layout into the minimum size that is attained. That is what is happening here. So I'm resizing it. My window is not capable of handling that, right? My smaller the size, the slide is going on, right? So what it is doing is like it is getting it to the minimum size over here. You can see here, so all my slides are visible, but you're getting a minimum slide which is very small kind of thing. So I've been put it into a smaller kind of a size. So this is what is the solution used for your PowerPoint. You can use different solutions also. You can truncate that information because you have a logical structure. You can just bring that structure size to the minimum size which is available. If you do not have a layout, then you can restructure the information, size it, or you can just reduce it. Right, so you can just reduce the information size because you do not have any layer or structure or layout. You can just minimize it and get the work done, right? Otherwise, if it is visible, then you remove the information. Get a more tag or something and fill in the information over there. That is also possible, but this is the last option is what I can say. Okay, so when minimum size is attained, replace the information with a message that indicates that minimum size has been reached and that the minimum and the window must be enlarged to continue working. So this would be the last option that I would choose for. But if I have already attained the minimum size and I cannot compress it furthermore, if I compress it furthermore, maybe I'll be losing the data or my visibility would go away. If such kind of thing is there, then it is better that you just provide the user a message saying that you have already reached the minimum size and you cannot reduce it anymore. So you have to enlarge the window so that your work can continue. Okay, and the last thing is that it is better that permit resizing without keeping it an active screen. So if you want it as an active screen, you should be capable of moving it. Okay, most of the users do not provide this, but you can. Okay, so this is one more kind of an operation that can be uh, provided or done onto a window. Some other operations that you can do is like you can permit the primary window to be maximized, minimized, or restored. Maximized in the sense maximizing a window which would increase the size of the window to its largest possible size, right? So you can maximize that. You can either minimize that, that is like you get it to the smallest size, or you can have restoring of that particular primary window. Restoring in the sense you have minimized it completely and you just want to reappear it into the previous state that it was. So that is called as restoring. You can perform these operations on the windows as well, correct? Apart from that, you can also try and shuffle the windows. So if you have somewhere around 10 to 15 windows open on your screen and you want to shuffle them, one you put it behind, one you put it foreground, then background you want to go. So that thing you should be capable of doing, or that is called as window shuffling, but it should be done within a very ease of time. You should not take more time and it should not take more steps. It should happen in few less number of steps. Okay, one more thing, or a kind of operation that you can provide for your windows is that keyboard control. Like you might have seen, like we make use of Control C, Control X. I mean, that's the common thing. Control S if you are changing something. So these are the common things that you make use of. So such kind of keyboard operations are also helpful for any of the user when you are giving a user interface design, because every time he moves a mouse becomes a tougher part, right? So it's better that you can give a keyboard control for him. But remember one thing, like keyboard control is for a person who is an expertise. It's not for people who are novice and they are, they are starting it newly, they are learners. So for them, you require to have a documentation so that they can understand and practice these keyboard controls. But whenever you're giving keyboard controls, you need to remember a few things. First is that window actions should be capable of being performed through the keyboard as well as with the mouse. If you're providing keyboard control, along with the keyboard control, mouse also must be capable of providing that. It is very simple. Like if you just type Alt F4, you can close any kind of a window in your Windows, right? So along with that, your mouse is also open. If Alt F4 does not work, you can make use of a cross button present under all kinds of designs, right? By using mouse, you can just go there and click in. So both then alternatives are being provided. Okay, next is keyboard alternatives should be designated through use of mnemonic codes as much as possible. Whichever mnemonic codes are there, using those mnemonic codes, you can provide the keyboard alternatives. So you have to mention them or designate them using this mnemonic codes only. Like you are making use of Alt, Control, or Shift, or Tab, like that kind of things. Okay, and using the mnemonics present on your keyboard, the documentation of that also must be done using the same mnemonics. Okay, so keyboard designations should be capable of being modified by the user. So whatever you are designing for a keyboard control, you give it, but you should be, I mean, it should be capable by the user to redesign it or modify it. Okay, you should provide certain options to modify them. So this is one kind of an operation that you can provide for a window. Okay, lastly, the last kind of an operation that you can provide for a window is closing up of a window. Now, whenever a user is working on something, when should he be capable of closing the window? He should be capable of closing the window under three actions. One is the user is requesting that it should be closed. Okay, if he just clicks on that cross mark and he wants it to close it, so allow him to close it. First thing. Second thing is that the user performs the action required in the window. So, like for example, if your machine is taking up an update and you ask for like update now, all of a sudden the window closes. So user has performed that action whichever the window was in need of. So that's the reason that it just closed off, correct? Like whenever you install any software, you have a finish button. The moment you click on the finish button, it closes off. So you're closing a window because of certain actions, right? So whatever the window action was, it was waiting for, the moment it gets that particular action, you have closed that window. So if you have that particular part running, that time you can just close a window. Or you can close a window when the window has no further relevance. If you do not need that window anymore for any specific task, that time you can automatically close that window. And when you're trying to automatically close that window which is of like which has no relevance, it should be a window which is used by some softwares or something. It should not be a window which is opened by the user. Okay, so it can be just a supporting thing or like that. Okay, so if the primary window is closed, then you need to close all the secondary windows. Okay, you need to close all the secondary windows the moment you close your primary window. But whenever you're closing this all the secondary windows, you're forcefully closing them when the primary window goes off, but you need to save the state of all these secondary windows, so that you can make use, maybe you may need it further. Okay, it depends on what kind of secondary windows you are in. Okay, then when a window is closed, save its current state including the size and the position for the use when the window is opened again. So if I have just minimized my Microsoft PowerPoint and I have closed it there, and then I've reopened PowerPoint again, so you will usually find it at the same location where you had closed it, right? So to keep that, you need to keep or save the current information of the window when you're trying to close it. So if you keep that kind of a current state information, then you can restore it at a same place or restore it at a same state also. Okay, so this is how, or these are the some guidelines that you can remember or maintain when you try to close a window. Okay, so there are altogether very many operations under window operations. You have something called as opening a window, sizing a window, placing a window, separating a window, moving a window, resizing a window, and closing a window, shuffling a window, providing some control operations and some other operations that you have. So in this class, you have learned about how to separate a window. You better separate it by a solid line, which can see a very, very big difference between the background and the foreground window. Then you should be capable of, or you should allow the user to move the window around screen wherever he wishes to, and you better designate the movement. You should allow the user or permit the user to resize his window, and you have also seen that usually upper left corner is kept constant and lower right corner is trying to move. But if you can allow him to resize the window from all the sides, you can give that option. Okay, and you should better, like, differentiate by the pointer and better resize the contents as and according to the size that he's giving. Okay, and your primary windows can be maximized, minimized, or restored. You are allowed to shuffle the window, and that shuffling must be done in very easy steps. And you can provide the keyboard control along with the mouse control. Okay, and you have also seen how to close a window. So in the next class, we'll be seeing about web systems, what frames are there, what is the meaning of a pop-up window in that. Okay, thank you.